The alarm screamed through every corridor of Haven's Edge colony. Commander Jiwon Park ran through the command center, her boots pounding against the metal floor as explosions rocked the building. Outside the reinforced windows, the sky burned with trails of enemy fire. The Valtherus had come without warning, and they had come to destroy everything. "Report!" Jiwon shouted over the noise. Lieutenant Daeho Shin looked up from his console, sweat running down his face. 27 enemy ships in orbit, Commander. They're tearing through our shields. We've lost the eastern defense grid and the mining station. Jiwon felt her stomach twist. 27 ships against their small defense force of 5 outdated frigates and a dozen fighters. This wasn't a battle. This was an execution. "Get Captain Minho on the line," she ordered. The view screen flickered to life, showing the young pilot's face inside his cockpit. Behind him, space lit up with weapons fire. Captain Minho Kim was barely 30, but he flew like he had nothing to lose. Maybe he didn't anymore. "I'm here, Commander," Minho said, pulling his fighter into a sharp turn. 2 of his wingmates exploded in the background. He didn't even flinch. "We're down to 8 fighters. These aliens have weapons we've never seen before. Our shields don't stop them." "Fall back to the colony perimeter," Jiwon said. "Protect the evacuation zones." "Commander, if we fall back, they'll destroy our frigates. The frigates are already lost." Jiwon's voice was hard. "Save the people you can save, Captain." "That's an order." Minho's jaw tightened, but he nodded. His fighter banked away, and Jiwon cut the connection. Dr. Yuna Choi burst into the command center, her medical uniform covered in blood. Not her blood. "Jiwon, the hospital is full. We have over 300 wounded, and more coming every minute. I need to start moving patients to the underground shelters." "Do it," Jiwon said. "Take everyone who can't fight. Seal the shelters when you're done." Yuna's eyes widened. "Seal them? That means we're not winning this fight." Jiwon turned to face her old friend. They had known each other for 15 years, since they were both young recruits fresh from Earth. "Get as many people underground as you can. If we fall, maybe the Valtherus won't waste time digging them out. And if they do?" Yuna whispered. Jiwon had no answer for that. She just pulled Yuna into a quick embrace and pushed her toward the door. "Go, save who you can." The building shook again. Daeho called out, "Commander, incoming transmission from the Valtherus flagship. They want to talk. Put them through." The view screen changed to show a Valtherus commander. The alien was tall and thin, with gray skin and eyes like black glass. Its mouth was too wide, filled with sharp teeth. When it spoke, the translator made its voice sound cold and metallic. "Human commander, your resistance is pointless. We have studied your species. You are weak. Your ships are primitive. Your weapons cannot harm us. Surrender now, and we will be merciful. Refuse, and we will turn your colony into dust." Jiwon stepped closer to the screen. "Merciful? We know what your mercy looks like. We've seen the other colonies you've attacked. You don't take prisoners. You take slaves or corpses." A Valtherus commander tilted its head. "Then you choose corpses. Unfortunate. Your species showed some promise. But you are too aggressive, too unpredictable. The galaxy is safer without you spreading further." It leaned forward. "We are purging the sector of your kind. Soon, humanity will be nothing but a footnote in history." The screen went black. Daeho stared at Jiwon. "They're going to kill us all. Not just here. Everywhere. I know." Jiwon moved to the tactical display. The enemy ships were moving into position around the colony. Bombardment formation. They would fire from orbit and flatten everything on the surface. "How long until they're in position?" 10 minutes. Maybe less. 10 minutes. Jiwan thought about all the people in the shelters below. Families, children, people who trusted her to protect them. She had failed them. The nearest human fleet was 3 weeks away, traveling at maximum speed. They had sent the distress signal hours ago, but help would come too late. "Commander, we're receiving responses to our distress call," Deho said suddenly. "Multiple colonies in the sector. They're all under attack too. The Valthers are hitting everyone at once." So this was it. A coordinated strike against humanity's outer colonies. The Valthers were starting a war, and they were starting it by trying to wipe out every human settlement in the sector. Before anyone could respond, G1 pulled up the colony-wide communication channel. "All defense forces, this is Commander Park. The enemy is preparing to bombard the colony from orbit. We cannot stop them, but we can make them remember us. Every ship, every fighter, every gun we have left target the lead enemy vessel. If we're going to die today, we take one of them with us." Captain Minho's voice came through immediately. "Copy that, Commander. My pilots are ready." The remaining frigates acknowledged the order. 3 ships left. The other 2 were burning debris now. Tumbling through space, G1 watched the tactical display as their forces moved into position. It was suicide. The Valthorous ship they were targeting was massive, easily 10 times the size of their biggest frigate. But maybe, if they concentrated all their fire on one spot, they could punch through its shields. Maybe they could hurt it. It wasn't much of a legacy, but it was something. "Commander," Deho said, his voice strange. "I'm reading something odd. There's a spatial distortion forming in high orbit. It's huge." Jiwan looked at the readings. Her tactical officer was right. Space itself seemed to be tearing open, energy readings spiking off the scale. Is it a Valthorous weapon? I don't know. I've never seen anything like this. The distortion grew larger, a wound in space that twisted light around it. The Valthorous ships stopped moving, their formation breaking as they turned their sensors toward the anomaly. Then space split apart, and something came through. It was a ship. A human ship. But it was massive, larger than any vessel Jiwan had ever seen. Its hull was dark metal that seemed to drink in the light, covered in weapons and armor that looked like nothing in the human fleet database. Along its side, painted in letters 3 stories tall, was its name, Indomitable. Deho's hands flew over his console. "Commander, I'm receiving a transmission. Audio only. It's coming from that ship." The voice that came through the speakers was calm and confident, with an authority that could not be questioned. "Attention, Valthorous forces. This is Admiral Hyan Lee of the human battleship Indomitable. You have attacked a protected colony. You have threatened human lives. You have one chance to withdraw. Stand down or be destroyed." The Valthorous commander's reply was immediate and filled with rage. "One human ship against our fleet? You are either insane or suicidal." "Then let me demonstrate." Admiral Hyan said. The Indomitable opened fire. The first shot from the Indomitable streaked across space like a spear of light. It hit the Valthorous cruiser dead center, and the alien ship simply came apart. The hull split open, atmosphere venting in a brilliant explosion that lit up the darkness. Debris scattered in all directions as secondary explosions tore through what remained. Commander Jiwan Park stood frozen in the command center, unable to believe what she was seeing. One shot, one impossible shot, and an enemy cruiser that had shrugged off everything her forces threw at it was gone. What kind of weapon was that? Deho whispered. The Indomitable didn't wait for the Valthorous to respond. It moved forward with grace that seemed impossible for something so large, and its weapons came alive. Rail's guns fired metal slugs at speeds that made them invisible, each one hitting with the force of a nuclear bomb. Energy beams cut through space, so hot They made the vacuum itself glow. Missiles launched in waves, twisting and turning with intelligence of their own to find their targets. The Valtherus fleet scattered, trying to bring their weapons to bear. They had faced human ships before. They knew humanity's weapons were weak, their shields inadequate. But this ship was different. This ship fought like nothing they had ever encountered. A Valtherus destroyer fired its main cannon at the Indomitable. The blast would have vaporized one of Haven's Edge defense frigates. It hit the human battleship's shields and simply disappeared, absorbed without even slowing the massive vessel down. Target their command ship. Admiral Hyon's voice came through on an open channel, speaking to her crew. Let them watch their flagship burn. The Indomitable's main guns aligned on the largest Valtherus vessel, the one whose commander had delivered the ultimatum. The battleship fired a salvo that lit up the entire battle space. The Valtherus flagship's shields held for exactly 3 seconds before collapsing. The next shots punched through the hull, tearing massive holes through the alien ship from bow to stern. All fighters. You have targeting data, Admiral Hyon transmitted to Captain Mino and the remaining human pilots. Hit them where it hurts. Mino didn't need to be told twice. He pushed his fighter to maximum acceleration, leading his 7 remaining pilots toward a Valtherus cruiser that was trying to flee. The Indomitable had already weakened its shields. Minho's missiles finished the job, and the cruiser broke apart in silence in the command center. Jiwan finally found her voice. Deo, get me a line to that battleship. Working on it, Commander. Their communication system is like nothing I've seen. Military encryption about 50 years ahead of anything we have. Just get me through. It took another minute, while outside the Indomitable continued to systematically destroy the Valtherus fleet. The aliens were trying to fight back now, but their weapons might as well have been throwing rocks. Every shot that hit the human battleship splashed harmlessly against shields that seemed unbreakable. I've got them, Commander, Deo said. You're connected to their bridge. Indomitable, this is Commander Jiwan Park of Haven's Edge Colony. We... Thank you doesn't seem adequate. You saved our lives. The response came immediately. Admiral Hyon's voice was warm now, not the cold steel it had been when addressing the enemy. Commander Park, I'm glad we arrived in time. Your defense was brave. Hold your position. This battle isn't over yet. Jiwan looked at the tactical display. The Valtherus fleet was down to 15 ships, and those were trying to retreat. Admiral, they're running. You've won. Not quite. The Valtherus commander is arrogant and angry. He won't run without trying to strike back. Watch the damaged flagship. Jiwan pulled up the view of the Valtherus command ship. It was drifting, venting atmosphere and fire, clearly dying. Then its remaining weapons powered up, all of them turning toward Haven's Edge colony below. He's going to bombard the surface, Jiwan said, ice flooding her veins. Even if he dies, he'll take the colony with him. Not today, Admiral Hyon said calmly. Major Sora, you are cleared for boarding action. On the tactical display, Jiwan saw dozens of small craft launch from the Indomitable. They were boarding pods, heavily armored and fast. They crossed the distance to the Valtherus flagship in seconds, magnetic clamps locking onto the hull. Then they burned through, reaching the ship. Major Sora Han led her Marines into the dying alien ship. They wore armor Jiwan had never seen before, powered suits that made each soldier strong enough to tear through bulkheads. Their weapons were compact but devastating, firing explosive rounds that could punch through Valtherus battle armor like paper. The aliens tried to defend their ship, but they were disorganized and wounded. Major Sora's team moved through the corridors with brutal efficiency, killing anyone who resisted and capturing those who surrendered. Within 10 minutes, they had reached the bridge. Admiral, we have control of the flagship, Major Sora reported, her voice steady despite the battle she had just fought. "The commander is dead. He killed himself rather than be captured. But we have their computer systems. Downloading their data now. Well done, Major. Secure the ship and return to Indomitable." The remaining Valtherus vessels didn't wait to see what would happen next. They jumped to faster-than-light travel and fled, leaving their flagship behind as a prize of war. The battle was over. Haven's Edge had survived. G1 felt her legs go weak, and she sat down hard in her command chair. Around her, the command center erupted in cheers. Daiho was crying and laughing at the same time. Through the windows, she could see people emerging from the shelters, pointing at the massive battleship that hung in orbit like a guardian angel. "Commander Park," Admiral Hyon said, "I need to meet with you and your senior staff. There are things you need to know. Things about this attack and what's coming." Something in the Admiral's tone killed Jiwan's relief. "What do you mean? What's coming?" "The Valtherus are gone. They'll be back. And they won't be alone. Can you come up to Indomitable? I have a shuttle on the way to pick you up." Jiwan looked at Daiho, who nodded. Dr. Yuna had just entered the command center, still covered in blood, but smiling with exhausted relief. Captain Minho's fighter was landing at the colony's flight deck, his pilots whooping with victory over the radio. "We'll be ready, Admiral," Jiwan said. The shuttle arrived 30 minutes later. It was sleek and fast, nothing like the boxy transports Haven's Edge used. Jiwan, Daiho, Yuna, and Minho boarded together, still wearing their battle-stained uniforms. None of them had slept in over 20 hours, but adrenaline kept them alert. The flight to the Indomitable took only minutes. As they approached, Jiwan got her first close look at the ship that had saved them. It was beautiful in a deadly way, every line designed for war. Weapons bristled from its hull, and its armor was scarred from battles she could only imagine. They docked in a hangar that could have held Haven's Edge entire defense fleet. Marines in those incredible powered suits stood at attention as they disembarked. An officer was waiting for them, a woman with sharp eyes and an easy smile. "Welcome aboard the Indomitable. I'm Commander Taiwan Ru, Intelligence Officer. The Admiral is waiting for you in the briefing room. Please follow me." They walked through corridors that hummed with power. The ship felt alive, every system running at peak efficiency. Crew members they passed looked professional and confident, nothing like the scared colonists G1 was used to commanding. The briefing room was large and dominated by a holographic display table. Admiral Hyan Lee stood waiting for them, and G1 was surprised to see she was younger than expected, maybe 50, with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. "Commander Park, Captain Kim, Dr. Choi, Lieutenant Shin, please. Sit down." Admiral Hyan gestured to chairs around the table. "I wish this meeting was just to celebrate our victory. But what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest levels. And it's going to change everything you think you know about this war." Jiwan sat down, her heart sinking. "What war? We weren't at war with the Valtherus until today. That's what your government thinks. That's what most of humanity thinks." Admiral Hyan activated the holographic display, and images of alien ships filled the air. "But 6 months ago, we intercepted Valtherus communications. We learned something terrible. The attack on your colony wasn't random. It was a test." "A test for what?" Minho asked. Admiral Hyan looked at each of them in turn. "A test before they tried to exterminate the entire human race." The holographic display showed 4 different alien species, each more terrifying than the last. The Valtherus were there, but also 3 others that Jiwan had never seen before. One looked like insects made of metal. Another resembled living stone. The third was something that hurt to look at, shifting and changing shape constantly. "The convergence," Admiral Hyan said quietly. 4 alien empires that normally hate each other. But they've found something they agree on. Humanity must die. Dr. Yuna Choi leaned forward, studying the images with her medical training. Why? What have we done to them? Commander Taiwan Ru stepped forward, pulling up files and documents. We've done nothing except exist and expand. That's enough. They've been watching us for the last 50 years, ever since we left Earth and started colonizing other worlds. They've seen how fast we reproduce, how aggressive we are, how quickly we adapt and learn. They're afraid of us, Captain Minho said, and it wasn't a question. Terrified, Taiwan confirmed. They think if they let us keep growing, in another 100 years, we'll be a threat to them. So they've decided to eliminate us now, while we're still weak and scattered across isolated colonies. Jiwan felt cold. How long until they attack? We have 2 weeks, maybe 3. They're gathering their fleets right now. Once they move, they'll hit every human colony simultaneously. Hundreds of worlds. Billions of people. Admiral Hyan changed the display to show fleet movements, red markers spreading across the map like blood. By the time our government realizes what's happening and mobilizes a response, most of our colonies will be gone. Lieutenant Daeho Shin stared at the map with his technical knowledge racing. How do you know all this? How did you intercept their communications when we didn't even know they were planning anything? That's classified, Admiral Hyan said. Then she paused and shook her head. Actually, you've earned the right to know. You fought and nearly died today. You deserve the truth. She gestured and a new image appeared. It showed a structure floating in space, ancient and enormous. It looked like it had been there for millions of years, older than any civilization Ji-Wan knew about. 6 months ago, we found this. A void station, built by a species that died out long before humans even existed. There are dozens of them scattered across the galaxy, maybe hundreds. They exist in something called fold space, a dimension between normal space and faster-than-light travel. Dr. Sung-Hoon Yang entered the briefing room. A thin man with tired eyes and equations floating around him on a personal display. I'm the astrophysicist who studied these stations. They're incredible. They let ships travel instantly across thousands of light years. One moment you're here, the next you're on the other side of the galaxy. That's how you reached us so fast, Jiwan said, understanding flooding through her. You used these stations to jump from wherever you were directly to Haven's Edge. Exactly. We were 3,000 light years away when we picked up your distress signal. Using conventional faster-than-light travel, it would have taken us months to reach you. Using the Void Network, we made it in minutes. Minho stood up, excited. Then we can use these stations to warn every colony. We can evacuate people, move our fleets, prepare defenses before the convergence arrives. The excitement died when he saw their faces. A woman in diplomatic robes stepped forward. Ambassador Yoonji Kwan had been quiet until now, standing in the corner of the room. Her face was troubled. It's not that simple, Captain. The void stations come with a price. When we first activated one, we thought we were alone. We thought the builders were long dead and their technology was just waiting to be used. We were wrong, Dr. Sung-Hoon continued. There are guardians, sentinels, artificial intelligence systems built by the same species that created the Void Network. They were programmed to protect the stations and to enforce certain laws. What kind of laws? Yuna asked. Laws against genocide. Laws against using certain weapons. Laws designed to prevent young species from destroying themselves or others. Admiral Hyan pulled up another image. This one showed something that made Jiwan's skin crawl. It was a ship, but wrong. Geometric and perfect, glowing with energy that seemed unnatural. We saw one of these sentinels. It appeared when we were studying a void station, scanned us, and then disappeared. We don't know what it thought of us. We don't know if it approved or not. Ambassador Yunji spoke again. If we use the void network extensively, if we activate station after station to move fleets and warn colonies, we might attract the Sentinels' attention again. And if they decide humanity is a threat, they could destroy us faster than the Convergence ever could. Their technology is millions of years beyond ours. The room fell silent. Ji-Wan looked at the map, at all those colonies marked in blue. Each one represented millions of human lives. So we have a choice. Let the Convergence kill us, or risk awakening something even worse. There has to be another option, Minho said desperately. We can't just give up. Admiral Hyan walked to the window, looking out at the stars. There is an option. We split our forces. I take the Indomitable through the Void Network, using it sparingly to reach our core worlds and warn the government. We'll have proof now, downloaded from that Valtherus flagship. We can show the Colonial Council that the threat is real. And the rest of us? Ji-Wan asked. You take a volunteer force using conventional ships. Travel to the nearest colonies and warn them. Help them evacuate civilians and prepare defenses. It will be slower, much slower, but you won't risk alerting the Sentinels. Taiwan brought up a different map. We've identified the most vulnerable targets. 20 colonies on the outer rim that the Convergence will definitely hit first. If you can fortify them, get their people to safety, you might save millions of lives. Dr. Yuna was already thinking about the medical supplies they would need. Daiho was calculating travel times and communication delays. Minho was studying the tactical situation, figuring out how to defend worlds with limited resources. Ji-Wan looked at Admiral Hyan. You're asking us to split up. You go one way, we go another. If the Convergence attacks before we're ready, then a lot of people are going to die, Admiral Hyan said bluntly. I won't lie to you, Commander. This plan is desperate. We don't have enough time, enough ships, or enough warning. People are going to die no matter what we do. But this gives us the best chance to save the most lives. What about the Sentinels? Yuna asked quietly. What if they wake up? Ambassador Yunji closed her eyes. Then I'll be responsible for dooming humanity. I'm the one who found the first void station. I'm the one who convinced the Admiral to use it. If the Sentinels come, that's on me. No, Admiral Hyan said firmly. If they come, it's on all of us. We made this choice together. Every person on this ship voted to use the Void Network to save lives. We knew the risks. We accepted them. She turned back to face the officers from Haven's Edge. I'm not ordering you to help us. You've already done enough. You defended your colony against impossible odds. You earned the right to rest. But I'm asking you anyway. Will you help us warn the colonies? Ji-Wan stood up. She thought about the people in Haven's Edge shelters, the ones who had trusted her to protect them. She thought about all the other colonies out there, families who had no idea what was coming for them. I'll do it, she said. Give me a ship and supplies, and I'll warn every colony I can reach. Count me in, Minho said immediately. My pilots are tired, but they'll follow me anywhere. I'll need medical supplies and equipment, Yuna said. If colonies are going to be attacked, they'll need doctors. Daiho nodded. Someone needs to set up a secure communication network. The Convergence has been jamming our signals. I can help with that. Admiral Hyan smiled for the first time since they had arrived. Thank you. All of you. Major Sora is already preparing a ship for you. We're giving you one of our frigates, the Horizon Scout. It's fast and well armed. We'll load it with supplies and weapons. Over the next 6 hours, they prepared. The indomitable crew worked with incredible efficiency, loading the Horizon Scout with everything Jiwan's team would need. Food, medicine, ammunition, spare parts, even a few of those powered armor suits for defense. Major Sorahan herself came to see them off. She handed Jiwan a data chip. This contains everything we downloaded from the Valthur's flagship. Their fleet positions, attack plans, communication codes. Use it wisely. Thank you, Major, and thank you for saving us today. Sora shook her head. You saved yourselves. We just helped finish the job. She looked at Minho. Keep your pilots safe, Captain. They fought well today. As they prepared to board the Horizon Scout, Admiral Hyon came to the hangar one last time. Commander Park, I don't know if we'll see each other again. I'm heading into the core worlds to convince politicians and admirals that we're facing extinction. You're heading into danger to save people who don't even know they need saving. Someone has to do it, Jiwan said simply. Indeed. Admiral Hyon handed her a small device. This is a quantum communicator. It's experimental, but it works. If you need help, if you find yourself facing something you can't handle, activate it. We'll come if we can. Jiwan took the device, feeling its weight in her palm. It was small, but it represented hope. A lifeline across the darkness. Good luck, Admiral. Good luck, Commander. See you when this is over. The Horizon Scout undocked from the Indomitable and turned toward the nearest colony. Behind them, the massive battleship activated its void drive. Space tore open, and the Indomitable vanished into fold space, heading toward humanity's core worlds to warn them that extinction was coming. The first colony didn't believe them. The governor of Redstone Settlement listened to Commander Jiwan Park's warning with polite skepticism, glanced at the data from the Valthur's flagship, and smiled like he was humoring a child. Commander, I appreciate your concern, but we've had no hostile contact with any alien species. The Valthurs you fought were probably just raiders, pirates. Every frontier has them. Sir, this wasn't a raid, Jiwan said, struggling to keep her voice calm. They came to exterminate my colony. They had the firepower to do it. And according to this intelligence, they're planning to hit Redstone in 8 days. The governor waved his hand dismissively. I've already contacted the Colonial Defense Fleet. They assured me there's no credible threat. If the military isn't worried, why should I be? Because the military doesn't know yet, Jiwan wanted to scream. Because Admiral Hyon was still traveling to the core worlds to warn them. Because by the time the government mobilized, colonies like this one would be burning. But she didn't scream. She just gathered her team and left, knowing that in 8 days, everyone on Redstone would be dead, and there was nothing she could do to save them. That Captain Minho Kim found her in the Horizon Scout's small mess hall, staring at nothing. The governor is a fool, he said quietly. The governor is scared, Jiwan replied. Admitting we're right means admitting his world is about to be destroyed. It's easier to believe we're wrong, so what do we do? Jiwan pulled up the list of colonies they needed to warn. 20 worlds. They had visited 3 so far. One had believed them and was evacuating. One was preparing defenses. And Redstone had laughed them out of the governor's office. We keep moving. We save who we can save. And we pray it's enough. Meanwhile, 3,000 light-years away, the Indomitable emerged from fold space above Earth. Admiral Hyon Lai stood on her bridge, looking down at humanity's homeworld. It had been 2 years she had seen Earth. She had forgotten how beautiful it was. Transmit our credentials and request immediate audience with the Colonial Council, she ordered. Tell them it's a matter of species survival. It took 6 hours of bureaucracy before they finally listened. 6 hours of officials who didn't believe. Security officers who thought she was exaggerating. Politicians who were more worried about their next election than the extinction of their species. Finally, she stood before Fleet Admiral Borum Song, and the full Colonial Council in their chamber on Earth's orbital station. She brought evidence. Videos from Haven's Edge showing the Valtherus attack. Data downloaded from the enemy flagship. Intelligence reports about the Convergence and their plans. Fleet. Admiral Borum was an old woman who had fought in humanity's first wars among the stars. She watched the evidence with sharp eyes that missed nothing. When it was finished, she leaned back in her chair. If what you're saying is true, Admiral Hyan, we're facing the largest military threat in human history. It's true, Hyan said simply. I've seen their fleets gathering. I've read their communications. They're coming, and they're coming soon. One of the council members, a fat politician who had never been off Earth, laughed nervously. But surely we can negotiate? There must be some misunderstanding. Humans are a peaceful species. We're not peaceful, Borum cut him off. We've never been peaceful. We're aggressive, territorial, and we breed faster than any species we've encountered. From their perspective, we're a plague that needs to be eliminated before we spread too far. She looked at Hyan. How long do we have? 2 weeks. Maybe less. 2 weeks to mobilize every ship, every soldier, every weapon we have. Borum stood up. Counselors, I'm invoking emergency military authority. As of this moment, all human colonies are under martial law. Every ship capable of fighting is drafted into the Colonial Defense Fleet. Every planet starts preparing defenses immediately. The chamber erupted in argument, but Borum ignored them. She walked to Hyan. I'll need your ship and your expertise. That void network you mentioned, can we use it to move our fleets faster? Yes, but there are risks, Hyan warned, explaining about the Sentinels. Borum listened and shook her head. We'll use it sparingly then. No mass fleet movements. But for critical communications and small rapid response teams. She turned to her aide. Get me Captain Hanyul Jang. She commands the carrier Horizon's Dawn. I want her ready to move within the hour. The next 10 days were chaos. Humanity's scattered fleets converged in a region of space called the Nexus Gate, the only stable approach to Earth from the outer rim. If the Convergence wanted to reach humanity's core worlds, they would have to come through the Nexus. Captain Hanyul Jang brought her carrier and its fighter wings. She was older than Mino, a veteran who had trained most of humanity's best pilots. When she heard about what happened at Haven's Edge, she asked to meet the young captain who had led the defense. Minho's Horizon Scout was traveling to its 5th colony when the message came through. Admiral Hyan wanted him to report to the Nexus Gate. His pilots were needed. Go, Commander Jiwan told him. You've done enough out here. Those fighters will make a difference in the real battle. What about you? Minho asked. I'm going to keep warning colonies. Dr. Yuna and Lieutenant Deho need me. We've got 15 more worlds to visit. They parted ways at the next jump point. Minho heading toward the Nexus, while G1 continued her desperate race against time. On the 7th colony they visited, they found something that changed everything. Dr. Yuna was examining medical supplies in a research station when she discovered files about captured Valtherus biotechnology. The scientists there had been studying it, trying to understand alien biology. Yuna read through the research with growing horror. G1, you need to see this. The files described a bioweapon. The Convergence had developed a virus specifically designed to kill humans. It was in their blood, coded to recognize human DNA and attack it at a cellular level. They planned to release it on every captured colony, ensuring that even survivors of the initial attacks would die slowly and painfully. Can it be stopped? Jiwan asked. Maybe, if I can study it, develop a countermeasure. Yuna looked up, her face pale. But I need time and resources. A real lab, not just a ship's medical bay. G1 made a decision. She contacted Admiral Hyan using the quantum communicator. Admiral, we've found something. A bioweapon. Dr. Choi needs to get to Earth immediately to develop a defense. Hyen didn't hesitate. Send her through the Void Network. I'll arrange transport from the nearest station. Dr. Yuna left that night, taking the research data with her. Jiwon, Daeho, and the Horizon Scout crew continued alone, warning colonies and helping them prepare Dot at the Nexus Gate. The human fleet was gathering. 400 ships, pulled from every corner of human space. Frigates, destroyers, carriers, even old warships that had been in mothballs for decades. It was the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled, and according to intelligence reports, it wouldn't be nearly enough. General Inho Kang commanded the ground forces on the planets near the Nexus. He turned civilian mining colonies into fortresses, training ordinary people to fight. Farmers learned to fire rifles. Miners became combat engineers. Children were evacuated to the safest bunkers. Humanity could build Captain. Minho arrived at the Nexus Gate and met Captain Hanyul on the Horizon's dawn. She looked him over with experienced eyes. So you're the pilot who held out against 20 Valthar ships with 8 fighters. 7 by the end, Minho corrected. We lost a lot of good people. You'll lose more before this is over. Hanyul's voice was hard, but not unkind. I'm giving you command of the 5th Strike Wing, 60 fighters. Best pilots I have. You think you can lead them? Minho thought about his friends who had died at Haven's Edge. Yes, ma'am. Good, because when the convergence arrives, you're going to be our first line of defense. On Earth, Dr. Yuna worked 20-hour days in a high-security lab. She had the best scientists humanity could offer helping her, but the bioweapon was incredibly sophisticated. It adapted and changed, always staying one step ahead of their countermeasures. We're running out of time, her assistant said on the 10th day. I know. Yuna's eyes were red from exhaustion. But I'm close. I think I've found a way to trick the virus. If we can modify human immune responses just enough. Alarms blared across the facility. Someone was shouting about long-range sensor contacts. The convergence had arrived at the Nexus Gate. Admiral Hyam Lai stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and watched as space itself seemed to ripple. Thousands of ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, more than any human had seen in one place. The Valtharis were there with their sleek warships. The insectoid Krathen brought their hive ships. The stone-like Molker deployed their fortress cruisers. And the shifting, impossible shapes of the Ithrani filled the darkness with their reality-bending vessels. Fleet Admiral Boram's voice came through on the fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Fleet Admiral's song. Today, the convergence comes to exterminate humanity. They think we're weak. They think we'll break. They think they can wipe us from existence like we never mattered. She paused, and Hyan could hear the smile in her voice. Let's show them they're wrong. The human fleet moved forward to meet its doom. Minho and his pilots launched from the Horizon's dawn. Major Sora and her Marines prepared for boarding actions. General Inho's ground forces stood ready on the planets below and 300 light-years away. Commander Jiwon Park received the message that the battle had begun. She looked at Daeho, and he looked back at her with understanding. Set course for the Nexus Gate, she ordered. Maximum speed. If we're going to die, we die with our people. The Horizon Scout turned and accelerated toward the greatest battle humanity had ever fought. The first wave of convergence ships hit the human fleet like a hammer. Thousands of weapons fired at once, lighting up space with deadly energy. The human ships scattered into the asteroid field that surrounded the Nexus Gate. Using the rocks for cover, Captain Minho Kim led his 60 fighters between the asteroids, targeting the Valtharis cruisers that were trying to flank the human formation. His pilots were good, but the enemy had numbers. For every convergence ship they destroyed, 3 more took its place. Break by wings, Minho ordered as alien fighters swarmed toward them. Don't let them surround you. The dogfight became chaos. Fighters twisted and turned through 3-dimensional space, missiles leaving trails of fire. Minho saw 2 of his pilots die in the first minute, 5 more in the second. The convergence wasn't just trying to win. They were trying to exterminate every human they found. Admiral Hyan Lee coordinated the defense from the Indomitable, using her battleship as a mobile fortress. Every time a section of the human line started to collapse, she moved the Indomitable there, her massive guns tearing apart enemy formations. Admiral, the Horizon's Dawn is taking heavy fire. Commander Taiwan reported from the tactical station. Hyan saw it on her display. The carrier was surrounded by Crothan hive ships, their weapons chewing through her shields. Captain Haniel was fighting hard, but she was outnumbered 10-1. All ships, cover the Horizon's Dawn, Hyan ordered. We can't lose our carrier. 3 human destroyers moved to help, but the Crothan were waiting. Weapons that dissolved matter hit the destroyers, and they simply came apart, atoms scattered into space. The Horizon's Dawn launched everything she had left, but it wasn't enough. Captain Haniel knew she was dying. She opened a channel to Minho. Captain Kim, you're a good pilot. Better than I was at your age. Take care of my people. Captain, we can still... No, you can't. But you can make this mean something. Haniel aimed her carrier at the largest Crothan hive ship. All crew, abandon ship. Everyone to the escape pods. Move. Minho understood what she was planning. Captain, don't. Someone has to make them pay. Haniel's voice was calm. Today is a good day to matter. The Horizon's Dawn accelerated, pushing her damaged engines to maximum. The Crothan saw her coming and fired everything they had, but the carrier was already dead. She was just falling. Haniel guided her ship into the heart of the Crothan formation and detonated her reactor. The explosion was like a newborn sun. It vaporized the hive ship and 3 others around it. The shock waves scattered the Crothan fleet, giving the human ships a moment to breathe. Minho watched his mentor die and felt something break inside him. Then he channeled that pain into fury. All fighters, form on me. We're going to make every single one of these alien bastards regret coming here. On the ground, General In-Ho Kang watched the battle in orbit through his command displays. The convergence had started landing troops on the nearest planet. They were coming for the civilians in the bunkers. All units, this is General Kang. Do not let them through. Those bunkers contain 15 million people. They're counting on us. His soldiers fought like demons. They had mining equipment turned into weapons, industrial machinery converted to combat vehicles. The convergence. Troops were better equipped and better trained, but they weren't ready for humans who refused to die. The Molker landed their fortress cruisers and deployed warriors made of living stone. They were nearly invincible, shrugging off bullets and lasers. But General In-Ho's engineers had prepared something special. They lured the Molker into a mining valley and detonated the charges they had set in the walls. 1 billion tons of rock came down, burying the stone warriors under their own element. The Ithrani were worse. They twisted reality around them, making weapons malfunction and soldiers go mad. General In-Ho's people couldn't fight them directly, so they didn't try. They triggered avalanches, collapsed tunnels, used the planet itself as a weapon god in orbit. The human fleet was dying. They had started with 400 ships. Now they were down to 200. The convergence had lost more ships, but they could afford the losses. Humanity couldn't. Admiral Hyan knew they were losing. She had known it from the start, but they had bought time. Every minute the fleet held out was another minute for civilians to evacuate. Another minute for Dr. Yuna to finish her countermeasure to the bioweapon. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Earth," Commander Taiwan said. "It's Dr. Choi." Yuna's face appeared on the screen. She looked exhausted but triumphant. "Admiral, I've done it. The countermeasure works. We can inoculate everyone. The bioweapon won't work anymore." Relief flooded through Haiyan. "That's excellent news, Doctor. How long to produce enough vaccine for all our colonies?" "Already started. We're using every medical facility on Earth. Give us 3 days, and we can protect everyone." 3 days. Haiyan looked at her tactical display. The human fleet didn't have 3 hours, let alone 3 days. "Keep working, Doctor. We'll hold them as long as we can." The Indomitable shook as multiple hits penetrated her shields. The Convergence was focusing on her now, recognizing that she was the key to the human defense. Destroy the Indomitable, and the rest of the fleet would crumble. "Shield generators 3 and 5 are offline," Chief Engineer Jinwoo Beek reported. He was in the engine room, keeping the ship running through damage that would have killed any other vessel. "I can compensate, but not for long." "Do what you can, Chief," Haiyan said calmly. Major Sora Han and her Marines fought throughout the ship as Convergence boarding pods breached the hull. Aliens poured in, trying to take the Indomitable from within. The Major's powered armor was damaged, one arm hanging useless, but she kept fighting with one hand and sheer determination. "Bridge, this is Major Sora. They're pushing toward engineering. If they reach the reactor, I know." "Hold them, Major." "That's an order." 300 light-years away, Commander Jiwon Park pushed the Horizon Scout to speeds that made the engines scream. Lieutenant Daeho had calculated their arrival time. They would reach the Nexus Gate in 2 hours. "We'll be too late," Daeho said quietly. "Probably," Jiwon agreed, "but we're going anyway." They emerged from faster-than-light travel into a battlefield that looked like hell. Debris filled space, the remains of hundreds of ships, both human and alien. The Indomitable was still fighting, but barely. Her hull was broken in a dozen places, fires burning in the vacuum. "All remaining human ships, this is Commander Park of Haven's Edge. We're here to help." "Commander, turn back." Admiral Haiyan's voice was strained. "This battle is lost." "Save yourself." "No battle is lost until everyone is dead, Admiral. We learned that from you." The little Horizon Scout accelerated into the battle. Jiwon knew they couldn't make a difference. One small frigate against thousands of enemy ships. But she had to try. That was when space began to tear apart. At first, Jiwon thought it was a weapon, but the energy readings were wrong. This was something else. Something huge was pushing through from fold space, and it was pushing through everywhere at once. A dozen tiers in space, then 100, then 1,000. From each tier emerged something that made the Convergence fleet look primitive. Geometric shapes that hurt to look at. Ships that existed in more dimensions than human eyes could perceive. Machines that predated the rise of organic life in the galaxy. The Sentinels had awakened. The largest Sentinel appeared at the center of the battlefield. It was massive, larger than any ship present, and it radiated power that made every sensor scream. When it spoke, its voice came through every communication system at once, translated into every language simultaneously. "By the ancient laws that govern this galaxy, we have observed this conflict. The Convergence stands accused of attempting genocide against the human species. This is forbidden." The Valthrus commander, arrogant even now, transmitted back. "These are internal affairs of our sector. The Sentinels have no authority." The Sentinel's weapon fired once. The Valthrus flagship ceased to exist, erased from reality so completely that space itself forgot it had ever been there. The ancient laws are absolute. Genocide is forbidden. The Convergence will face judgment. The Sentinels turned their weapons on the alien fleet. Ships that had taken humanity's best efforts to damage were destroyed in microseconds. The Krafen hive ships burned. The Molker fortresses crumbled. The Ithranes reality-bending technology was meaningless against machines that existed outside normal physics. The Convergence fleet tried to flee. The Sentinels pursued. Within 10 minutes, 3,000 enemy ships had been reduced to scattered debris and fleeing survivors. Admiral Hyon stood on her damaged bridge, unable to believe what she was seeing. The Sentinels had saved them. The ancient machines that she had feared would destroy humanity had instead judged them worthy of protection. The largest Sentinel approached the Indomitable. Hyon stood tall despite her exhaustion, ready to face whatever judgment was coming. Human designation: Admiral Hyon Lee. Your species has demonstrated courage and willingness to defend itself. The ancient laws recognize your right to exist. Thank you, Hyon managed to say. May I ask why you helped us? The Convergence violated the prohibition against genocide. Such violations are punished absolutely. Your species did not violate any laws. Therefore, you are protected. And the Void Network? Can we continue to use it? Limited access is granted. Your species has proven itself capable of using the network responsibly. But be warned, greater threats exist in this galaxy. You must grow stronger to face what comes. The Sentinel began to fade back into fold space. One final warning. Admiral Hyon Lee. The Convergence is broken, but they still exist. They will remember this defeat. Be vigilant. Then the Sentinels were gone, vanishing as suddenly as they had appeared. The human fleet was left floating in the debris field, battered and broken, but alive. Commander Jiwan brought the Horizon Scout alongside the Indomitable. She could see the damage to the great battleship, the scars it would carry from this battle. But it was still intact. Still fighting. Captain Minho landed his fighter on one of the surviving carriers. He had started the battle with 60 pilots. He had 15 left. They were exhausted, wounded, some of them crying with relief. But they had survived. On the ground, General Inho received word that the enemy troops were retreating. His soldiers cheered, but he knew the cost. Thousands dead, cities damaged. But the civilians in the bunkers were safe. Dr. Yuna watched from Earth as the news came through. Humanity had survived. Her countermeasure worked. The bioweapon could never be used against them. 3 days later, Admiral Hyon stood on a rebuilt platform on Haven's Edge. The colony had been repaired as much as possible. The people had returned from their shelters. Today, they were honoring the dead and celebrating the living. Commander Jiwan, Captain Minho, Dr. Yuna, Lieutenant Deho, Major Sora, and all the others who had fought stood with her. Behind them, the Indomitable hung in orbit, a guardian that would never be forgotten. We expected no reinforcements, Hyon said in her speech to the gathered crowd. We thought we would face extinction alone, but we were wrong. Not because the Sentinels saved us, though they did. We were wrong because we saved ourselves. She looked at the survivors around her. Every person who fought, who warned others, who refused to give up even when death seemed certain. You are the reinforcements. Humanity's greatest weapon has never been our technology or our ships. It's our refusal to accept extinction. Our determination to survive no matter the cost. The crowd cheered. Jiwan stood with her friends and knew that Hyon was right. They had faced the impossible and won, not because they were stronger or smarter, but because they were human. And in the galaxy, word spread. Humanity had been tested by the greatest threat they had ever faced. They had stood at the edge of extinction, and they had emerged victorious. The Convergence had learned a hard lesson. You could attack humanity. You could wound them. You could even kill billions of them. But you could never make them surrender. And if you pushed them far enough, something would emerge from the void to stop you. either human determination or ancient justice. Either way, humanity would.